5 years ago, the Thunder traded away Russell Westbrook and Paul George to build for the future. Just 2 seasons ago, the Oklahoma City Thunder went 24-58 with the 3rd worst record in the league. This year, OKC went 57-25 and are in a second-round battle against Dallas, led by MVP candidate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Thunder have gone from a supporting cast headlined by Josh Giddey, Dort and Bazley to now JDub and Chet, as this team has taken a huge jump with a bright future, all put together by Sam Presti. But just how did a team that looks so absolutely terrible become a title contender in this short of a time span? After the infamous Damian Lillard three-point shot, the Thunder knew it was time to blow it up, as really after Kevin Durant left in the 2016 offseason, Westbrook was carrying OKC but did not have a good enough supporting cast to ever win a title. The official trades ended up being Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul, 2 first-rounders and 2 first-round pick swaps, and Paul George for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, 4 unprotected first-rounders and 3 protected first. And while they got a haul for the picks, OKC may not have known it yet, but they just got their franchise player in Shai. Additionally, in the 2019 draft, the Thunder would trade Brandon Clark for a second-rounder and Bazley. If you have noticed a trend by now, the Thunder are just stacking up on picks, which makes it even more miraculous they found their star from a trade. But in the 1920 season, the rebuild would not start immediately. As though the Thunder were expected to be horrible, they surprisingly made the playoffs with a 44-28 record in a shortened season, and went 7 against the Houston Rockets in the bubble, with Game 7 coming to the wire. But Chris Paul was too good. They had to fully commit to the tank. But before that, there was some very encouraging signs that not just for their unexpected success, but the young guys, and specifically Shai. He took a huge jump, going from 10.8 points and 2.8 rebounds in his rookie season in LA to 19 points and 6 boards on very similar efficiency, as his role increased in a big way in OKC, leading the team in scoring and finishing 6th in most improved player voting. Dort was also a very good defender and had some notable defensive performances against Harden in the bubble, putting him on the map. Diallo, Ferguson, and Bazley would all crack the rotation as younger guys. But before I get into the video, please like, subscribe, turn notifications on, comment. It would really help a lot. The channel isn't doing so well right now, but my goal is 1,000 subscribers before the start of next season, and it would help so much. But back to the video. In the 2020 offseason, the Thunder made sure they would be bad next year with an incredibly busy offseason, trading away Chris Paul for Kelly Oubre, a first and a few throwaway players, then later flipping Oubre, who was in that deal, to the Warriors for a couple of seconds and a trade exception, leading to a first-rounder. They would also trade for guys like Vincent Poirier, Admiral Schofield, and Vit Krejci, but maybe most shockingly, 7-year Thunder vet Steven Adams for Kenrich Williams, and a future first and a couple of second-rounders. Danilo Gallinari, Jalen LeCue, and James Johnson would all end up being traded for picks, and some guys they acquired earlier, like Green and Poirier, as well as the earlier mentioned Terrence Ferguson, were traded to take on a bad contract in Al Horford to get a 2025 first-rounder. Unfortunately, the 2020 draft was a huge miss for the Thunder. The Thunder would trade for the 17th pick, Aleksej Pokusevski, and trading away Emmanuel Quickley in the deal. The Thunder would also trade away Jaden McDaniels alongside Ricky Rubio, but they would also get Theo Maledon in the draft. Mark Daigneault would also be hired as head coach, a heavily criticized move at first, but one that would reap heavy benefits in the future. And in the 2021 season, the Thunder did get off to a good start, reaching 8-9 around a quarter of the way through the year, but after that was just terrible. OKC finished 22-50, going 14-41 across the final 55 games, as they finished tied for the 4th worst record. The deadline was that real show of fully tanking, trading Hamidou Diallo for Svi Mykhailiuk and a second, but more importantly, trading away George Hill, who was averaging double digits for a couple seconds, Tony Bradley, and a later bought out Austin Rivers. Al Horford would also sit for the second half of the year, while Shai suffered a foot injury. Throughout the year, there were players who showed promise, with SGA jumping to nearly 24 points a game, and other younger players like Dort, Bazley, Diallo, and Maledon being forced into bigger roles, which did lead to impressive stats, though maybe not legitimately showing of their actual on-court performance. Early in the offseason, the Thunder would trade Al Horford for Kemba and a first, both players on bad contracts, but Al would get to return home to Boston, where he had succeeded previously. OKC would also trade cash in a second for a first and Derek Favors, who would end up starting about about a quarter of the season for them. The Thunder would end up with the 6th pick in the draft, a nightmare scenario for a team that was just that bad, and took Josh Giddey but made some key mistakes, trading away Alperen Sengun and Miles McBride while trading for Jeremiah Robinson Earl and selecting Trey Mann at 18th, but would make an extremely good pick, getting Aaron Wiggins at 55, an actual rotation player for them currently. But this was the second bad draft by the front office, though of course it would work out, but this was a discouraging start. The 2021-2022 season would again not get off to a bad start though, going 5-6 in their first 11 games, and though it isn't great, 13-22 in 2021. But after the turn of the calendar, went 11-36, a 23.4% win percentage. Shai would again get injured, playing just 86 games across the last 2 seasons and sparking some injury questions. Josh Giddey had a good rookie year, but this was just another tanking season for the Thunder, setting up for a huge offseason and a huge draft. The Thunder had the 2nd pick and 12th pick and would take Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, a franchise-changing draft. OKC would also take back up the other Jalen Williams in the 2nd round and Ousmane Dieng at 11, a project big man, but would unfortunately trade 30th pick Peyton Watson to the Nuggets for a future first, something that could haunt them in the conference finals. While Chet wouldn't play in the 22-23 season, this is a historically good draft, getting both JDub and Chet, and next season showed exactly that. Despite missing their 2nd overall picks and expectations being in the gutter, most people didn't even have them winning 30 games, the Thunder were actually competing. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led the way, taking that jump into superstardom, averaging 31.4 points, 5.5 assists, and 4.8 boards, while becoming one of the best drivers in the league, averaging a league-leading 17.1 points off drives and got to the line nearly 6 times a game just off drives. He is absolutely great at drawing contact and getting to the free throw line. He finished 5th in MVP voting and 2nd in most improved with 24 first-place votes, just behind Lauri Markkanen, and made All-NBA first team. Jalen Williams finished 2nd in Rookie of the Year voting, and though I won't talk too much about him because I just released a JDub video 2 days ago, if you enjoyed this, check it out after, but he was a huge reason for OKC's success. He can score in isolation and off drives just like Shai. They were a fast-paced team, scoring over 117 points per game, the 5th most, and for such a young team were very composed defensively, and finished in the top half in defensive rating. OKC did lose in the play-in, but this year they did way better than everyone's expectations and set themselves up for a great 23-24 campaign, while of course stacking up more future picks throughout the offseason, though they unfortunately traded away Derek Lively. But Chet Holmgren was back after missing the entirety of the rookie year with a foot injury during his summer exhibition game with LeBron James. He would be having his rookie season at the same time as Victor Wembanyama, a player that fans compare, and though Wemby is Wemby, Chet was actually able to hold up for a bit. Holmgren ended up averaging 16.5 points, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks, and over 1.5 threes per game. Just 2 other players have ever accomplished those numbers, being Wembanyama this season and 2020 Kristaps Porzingis, just complete unicorns. But the MVP of the Thunder season was Shai, who ended up 2nd in total MVP voting. He was again an elite player in the paint, and alongside Jokic dominated advanced statistics. JDub is a great 2nd option, Dort is an elite defender, and Giddey is a secondary initiator, and the bench is great. With elite shooter Isaiah Joe, who the Thunder signed in free agency in 2022, defensive pest 10th pick Kesson Wallace, Gordon Hayward, who OKC traded for at the deadline, Jalen Williams, and Aaron Wiggins. This is a new team with just 2 players in the main 9-man rotation, having been on the team for more than 3 seasons, and this is because they are so young. Shai is the oldest player in that main rotation at 25 years old, and they're the 2nd youngest roster only behind the Spurs, and that helps this team. They play fast, but with maturity and composure, and OKC is fighting in the playoffs as the 1st seed. But it isn't just about now. They have tons of picks for the future. Sam Presti is stacked on that. And for such a young core, they are able to maybe experiment because they're going to be good from years from now. They are currently in the 2nd round against the Mavericks, though, and favored to beat them. But either way, this team has one of the brightest futures in the league with the best young trio we have seen in years.